Now, when I say occult, it simply means hidden from view. This is the knowledge that ruling circles have kept to themselves, and that they view as the key to their power. The purpose of this guarded knowledge was to evolve the consciousness into a higher state of existence. They studied this information, wrapped them in rituals, and protected it with often gruesome blood-spilling oaths. And many secret organizations emerged out of the need to protect this occulted knowledge. But to this day, the most powerful secret society is the Knights Templar. As they returned from their crusade in the Holy Land between the 11 and 1300s, it's alleged that the Templars brought back a number of mystical, religious, and spiritual beliefs. They were often accused of worshipping such anti-Christian symbols such as snakes, owls, the hermaphrodite deity Baphomet, and the human sacrifice demanding Baal. Their detractors claim that the Templars were heavily into ritualistic sex magic as a gateway into the spiritual world. And these alternative beliefs seem to serve the Templars well. Even today, their unmistakable symbol, a red cross on a white background, can be seen all over the levers of power. The Templars became so powerful in fact that they eventually had to create spin-off orders like the Knights of Malta, a secret society so powerful that it's often considered diplomatically sovereign and maintains separate diplomatic relations with over 100 countries. Another organization created out of the Templars are the Freemasons, whose prominent members are way too many to even count.
I hold that to be self-evident, Brother Franklin. All men are created equal.
Indeed, Brother Washington. All Freemasons meet as equals, and we have an opportunity to create a nation in the very essence of Masonic morality.
And high-ranking Masonic leaders in the US knew perfectly well that their occult knowledge had been passed on from a previous lost age. One Confederate general's statue was toppled in 2020 was Albert Pike. 33rd degree Freemason and ritual designer of the Ku Klux Klan, Pike's legacy was firmly placed among the memorials of DC. And he wrote about how Freemasonry was in fact a custodian of pre-flood knowledge in his book Morals and Dogma. And I quote, "That of bronze which survived the flood represents the mysteries of which Masonry is the legitimate successor, handed down from age to age by an unbroken current of tradition, embodied in symbols, emblems, and allegories."
You know, I wonder if other presidents after me will also be Freemasons.
Many are initiated into these mysteries by bloodline. However, to recruit enough lackeys to keep this power structure in place, the bloodline elite often find it necessary to bring in and indoctrinate talented individuals among the privileged class into at least some aspects of this knowledge. And what better place to do this than the seemingly tranquil and esteemed institutions of academia, where a very old and entrenched network of secret societies work to serve the long-term goals of this elite. Swearing allegiance to these secret societies puts its young members on the fast track to success in leadership positions for life. And despite a public front of philanthropy and goodwill, they are steeped in occult mysticism.
Skull and Bones. Accept or reject.
Of course, the most well-known is Yale's Skull and Bones. Its membership includes George W., his dad George Bush Sr., and his daddy Prescott. Also John Kerry, conservative commentator William F. Buckley, a high number of Yale presidents, several high-ranking members of the CIA, and even actor Paul Giamatti. But this is just a small sample of their successful former members. And if you are a member, you're strictly forbidden from discussing your membership with anyone outside the organization.
You were both in Skull and Bones, the secret society.
It's so secret we can't talk about it.
What does that mean for America?
Both were members of Skull and Bones, a secret society at Yale. What does that tell us?
Not much, because it's a secret.
And perhaps for good reason. If the public knew the details of their rituals, they'd be appalled.
What you're hearing is the first recording ever made of the Skull and Bones initiation ceremony.
And what did you hear? What was it you managed to get this unique
it was
access to it?
disgusting. It was gross. I mean, they were pretending to murder people. And
What was the tone of it, though? Was it jokey or was it
vicious.
quite...
No, it wasn't jokey at all. It was sick. It's about the only way I can describe it. It was sick.
Skull and Bones is the most well-known secret society, but they're just the tip of the iceberg. There are over 40 secret societies just in Yale alone, and hundreds more nationwide. Many looking like they belong in Harry Potter, and often steeped in dark and satanic symbolism. But with successful alumni able to donate millions of dollars to these schools, it's most likely that these secret societies enjoy undue influence on the choice of university presidents, board members, and student government positions. What these fraternal secret societies have in common with their big boy counterparts is an incessant importance placed on ritual. And it is the masters of these rituals who are some of the most revered figures among the intellectual and political elite. And the most notorious black magician in recent history is the early 20th century occult practitioner, Aleister Crowley, or as some like to call him, the Beast. This high-level Freemason is most famous for creating the religion of Thelema, a key component of which was the practice of ritual sex magic. Sex magic is the belief that during a sexual union, the moment of orgasm literally opens doorways into another dimension, where the barriers between the physical world and the astral dissolve. And it was Crowley's pioneering of such rituals that would land him friends and admirers in high places. People like Aldous Huxley, Timothy Leary, James Bond creator Ian Fleming, author Roald Dahl, and even Winston Churchill. He's even credited for creating the V for Victory sign to act as a magical foil for the Nazi swastika.
Repeat after me.
What's even more bizarre are the rumors that Crowley was indeed the biological father of former First Lady Barbara Bush. Although this is often scoffed at by the mainstream, a British documentary on Crowley entitled In Search of the Great Beast 666 points out how the historical details do line up to make this a possibility. Could the most wickedest man in the world be George W. Bush's grandfather? And would that even be surprising? Barbara herself was no stranger to the macabre, and she even kept a miscarried fetus in a jar for decades and showed it off to family members.
And my mom is what I learned was she's a straightforward person. She says to her teenage kid, here's a fetus.
Crowley would go on to inspire many prominent names of the 20th century. Pop culture icons like the Beatles, Led Zeppelin, and Michael Jackson were heavily inspired by Crowley's work. Devoted follower of Crowley and science fiction writer L. Ron Hubbard would go on to parlay many of Crowley's teachings into the foundations of his Church of Scientology.
He was deeply involved with a British black magician called Aleister Crowley. Really the basis of Scientology, which is rather hidden and covered over, is the occult, the deep involvement with satanic powers, and through putting himself in deep hypnotic trances and the use of drugs on himself, he wanted to become the most powerful being in the world.
During his lifetime, Crowley's zest for ceremony, symbolism, and ritual were mainly known by a relatively small circle of like-minded practitioners. However, the culted powers of today, those who occupy high positions in politics, finance, and entertainment, have become ever more bold in touting these very ancient secrets in plain sight, even incorporating them in many areas of everyday life, oftentimes with the casual observer never catching on. Now, this isn't just fun and games for the privileged few for whom these cryptic messages are meant to be understood by. It's way more than that. The fervor in which many follow these rules and secret doctrines can be described quite accurately as religious fundamentalism. However, what I'm talking about is not a religion whose goal is to elevate man to become more enlightened and obtain spiritual harmony. The point of this religion is something else entirely. In 2015, a high-level insider in the Dutch financial industry blew the whistle on what he claimed to be dark occult practices in the highest levels of the financial world.
I was often put in the leading role because I kept a good overview of the situation. I played at the highest level for about 5 years. To put it carefully, most of these people followed a not very mainstream religion. These people, most of them, were Luciferians. And then you can say, religion is a fairy tale, God doesn't exist, none of that is real. Well, for these people, it is truth and reality. And they served something immaterial, what they called Lucifer.
Sir, it's him.
In this religion, which has been practiced in the shadows, has, in the last few decades, emerged in the public sphere in a series of cryptic symbols and themes flowing through the popular culture.
This always gives me the creeps, sir. He's the president of Hollywood. He's supposed to give you the creeps. Greetings, your tinseliness, imperious leader of Hollywood.
And there might not be any realm of mass-consumed culture that is more satanic than the pop music industry. Hank Harrison, the father of Whole front woman Courtney Love, has stated matter-of-factly that the heads of MTV were conducting satanic rituals and required the same of those who aspired to be featured on the channel.
Was Courtney, do you know of, ever involved in the occult or witchcraft or anything like that? Absolutely, man. No kidding. Especially when she was with MTV. People at MTV were totally into satanic cults. The kind of stuff where they were having meetings wearing red masks and sacrificing people and stuff.
Get the hell out of here at MTV.
The musicians that were going through MTV couldn't get on MTV unless they were vetted by these people.
Really?
And they had definite proclivities to not let anybody in there unless they were able to manipulate them through these various cult practices.
But even the largest names in pop music are not shy about their dark occult leanings. Powerhouse Lady Gaga has been accused of doing occult rituals in her hotel room when the London Intercontinental Hotel accused the singer of leaving, quote, large amounts of blood in the bathtub, which housekeepers claimed she was bathing in.
If you don't get this right now, I swear to Lucifer, I'm gonna...
But sure, a few celebs are into the cult. No big deal, right? Well, what if nearly every famous face you know was indoctrinated into this dark world? In 2016, the Museum of Contemporary Art in Los Angeles hosted a strictly black-tie gala for the who's who in Hollywood. While a quick peruse of the MoCA website describes nothing other than an innocent art event, images leaked online revealed something truly macabre. Prices ranging from about $25,000 to $100,000 gets you a table at this weird party, where human beings are seen as nothing but meat to be consumed. The high priestess is carried in as a dead body, arises, and carries out a mock sacrifice on this red velvet cake made to look like a nude woman, her flesh consumed by some of the biggest names in Hollywood. The belle of this ball is a performance artist named Marina Abramovic. Not only is she the darling of celebrities and satanic trendies everywhere, she's most well known on the internet for a practice called spirit cooking, a ritual that you can see her performing here that includes pig's blood, human menstrual blood, breast milk, and semen.
Here's her with Lady Gaga at a spirit dinner. As you can see, someone laying in what is breast milk, sperm, piss, urine, and then them eating it all together.
But okay, so what? What does any of this mean? What does it even mean to worship Satan these days anyway?
I went to places called Churches of Satan. They were doing their holy mass with naked woman and liquor and stuff. And it just amused me. I didn't make the connection yet. The Luciferians, the Satanists, whatever you wish to call it, it is a real entity. There really has been a moment of separation from the manifestation of light, in which a group went their own way and are carrying an intense hatred, anger. This is an all-annihilating force that hates our guts. It hates creation. It hates life. And it will do anything to destroy us completely. And the way to do that is to divide humanity. Divide and conquer is their truth.
Sounds pretty dramatic, huh? But if this was going on right under our noses, how could it be hidden from the public at large?
I think we are quite lost in many ways, and we live in a society that invests huge amounts of money and vast quantities of energy in ensuring that we all stay lost. A society that invests in creating unconsciousness so that we're just passive consumers and not really asking any of the questions.
You know the old expression, don't worry, be happy?
Don't worry, be happy.
Don't worry, be happy.
Don't worry, be happy.
Don't worry, be happy.
Don't worry, be happy. Don't worry, be happy.
The main method which we are kept in our slumber is of course the mass media, which control of has been placed in increasingly fewer hands. Without the inconvenience of a population that receives its news from a diverse and independent body of outlets, it becomes very easy to shape and nudge us in any direction they want.
To change the perception of reality of every American to such an extent that despite of the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country.
Our societal lobotomy and design political ineffectiveness have allowed these powers to grow ever more bold in their sadism, reaching a point where it becomes difficult to imagine, and very tempting to pretend that it isn't true. I have to warn you, this is where things get dark.
The Washington Times reported today that unidentified White House aides in the Carter, Reagan, and Bush administrations now are being investigated for using the services of a call boy ring. The paper reports that 2 of the male prostitutes were given a late-night tour of the White House last year.
You see, many of those connected to the gears of power are complete fucking deviants, committing acts so depraved that it seems almost impossible, oftentimes involving children. One such peek behind this dark curtain came in 1988 and is known as the Franklin Credit Union cover-up, when a Nebraska businessman got caught flying as many as 270 young boys from the Boys Town Orphanage in Nebraska to DC, where they were pimped out to religious leaders and Beltway insiders. We're talking about people so highly connected that some of the boys were given late-night tours of the White House. And despite mountains of damning victim testimonies, nobody went to jail, and a number of the accusers died in mysterious circumstances. You see, if you're a sick pervert, it helps that you're above the law.
Keeping them honest tonight, potentially hundreds of military employees and contractors who may have bought child pornography online but haven't been prosecuted or even in some cases investigated. 5,200 from an internet sting operation, including staffers for the Secretary of Defense and contractors at the NSA. After about 8 months, the entire probe was halted.
This is big. Take, for instance, the scandal involving DynCorp, a large private Defense Department contractor. When they got caught trafficking women and children through international prostitution rings, few in the media or law enforcement even batted an eye. Few had the courage, like former U.S. Representative Cynthia McKinney, to stand up and ask why no one was being brought to justice.
Mr. Secretary, is it policy of the U.S. government to reward companies that traffic in women and little girls?
Thank you, Representative.
Basically, human trafficking is like a scourge that has overtaken the decision makers, the policy makers. I don't know if it's that this is a part of the requirement to join an elite political body, or if it's just something that happens as a result of being in power and then becoming, more craven with your power. We know what happened, we know what continues to happen, and yet there seems to be this air of impunity.
However, no one rocks impunity quite like the Brits.
The allegations beggar belief. Young boys driven around London and delivered to abuse parties. MPs, police officers and other pillars of the British establishment engaged in depraved acts of abuse with children. And now the latest shocking claim. At least 3 murders linked to a network of VIP perverts.
Okay, another edition of Top of the Pops.
And the most prolific serial rapist of all time was famed UK TV presenter and close friend of Prince Charles, Jimmy Savile, whose victims number in the hundreds.
The numbers are bewildering. 450 people have come forward. 328 were children at the time. 214 crimes have been reported, 34 rapes. The youngest victim was 8. And on it goes. Hundreds must have known something.
Here we go.
Savile was more than just a friend to the British royals. In fact, him and Prince Charles were such close friends that he would deliver personal messages between Charles and Diana as their marriage was failing. It's believed that Savile was brought into the royal inner circle by Lord Mountbatten, who himself had his own sex scandal involving the children's home in Belfast, known as the Concordia scandal. But there's seemingly no end to the stories involving high-level Brits and the sexual exploitation of children. And one of the most appalling descriptions of this ultra-wealthy UK sex abuse cult comes from 15-year-old survivor Teresa, who was pimped out by her own grandmother since she was a young child.
According to Teresa, the worst rituals took place at a house somewhere in the country.
It was big, expensive. From the front, it looked like a castle. It had a long drive and big double wooden doors.
Do you think they were rich people then?
Very rich.
And sex abuse wasn't the only terrible thing she had to endure.
And then a sacrifice would happen.
The sacrifice? Were these animal sacrifices?
Animals and people. There was a tramp who was brought in once, and he was killed. He was cut from his throat down to his stomach. I ate him, or bits of him.
When the former bassist for the band The Scorpions, Ralph Reicherman, was confronted by the TV show TMZ, he too described attending something similar.
The one time I've seen really bad.
Was it like a donkey show, or?
No, actually, I think they actually kill people there and stuff. They pay up to 100,000 people to see people get
executed?
I'm not kidding. But I went to another one where literally I saw like the grossest. I wanted to throw up.
Our next guest participated in human sacrifice rituals and cannibalism. She says her family has been involved in rituals for generations. You don't have to give us the gory details, but what kinds of things went on in the family?
Well, there would be rituals in which babies would be sacrificed, and you would have to, you know...
Whose babies?
There were people who bred babies in our family. There's other families across the country. It's not just my own family.
And the purpose of sacrifice is to what? Is to bring you what? What are you sacrificing for?
For power.
If we are talking about the worst things that I have experienced, at some point I was invited, which is why I'm telling you all this, to participate in sacrifices abroad. That was the breaking point. Children.
During these ceremonies, was Satan, the devil, ever referred to?
He was called Lucifer.
What did they say about the devil, about Lucifer?
That killing the people made him happy.
It all seems so crazy and over the top. Could Teresa's claims be the product of some psychotic illness? Or an overly active imagination?
Do you believe Teresa's story?
I believe Teresa's story. It's exactly the same story as I've heard from men who says they've done it. How do those children able to describe rituals, to talk about ceremonies, to talk about sacrificing animals? How do those children know?
In fact, Teresa's experience isn't rare. Although this will never show up on the front page of any publicly traded media operation, there's a never-ending stream of victims who have come out and documented their experiences with wealthy satanic ritual abuse cults. And the fact that they're even able to recount their stories makes them the lucky ones.
If you Google this, you'll find enough worldwide witness accounts to know this isn't a Walt Disney fairy tale. Unfortunately, the truth is that worldwide they have been doing this for thousands of years.
The psychopathic case for human fear, suffering, and lording the power of life and death over their helpless victims is just part of the reason why this goes on. But it also goes deeper. These black magic elite wholeheartedly believe that, if done in the correct ritual context, that certain kinds of sacrifices will literally summon what can only be described as, well, demons. Yeah, that's where we're going with this. And your personal feelings on whether demons actually exist are not what's important. My point is that the black magic elite unquestionably believe that much of their power comes from these entities, which they led into this world through ritual and sacrifice. And they come from far outside the realm of what we consider known reality. You would think that this kind of superstitious thinking would have died out by the time we entered the modern era. However, those in high places are not at all shy about their contact with the world beyond. Ex-Louisiana Governor Bobby Jindal has written about how his ex-girlfriend was taken over by a demonic force and had to be exorcised by a priest. Former South Korean President Park Geun-hye, who was ousted from power and jailed in 2016 on numerous accusations of corruption and belonging to a satanic cult, also admitted to channeling spirits and leaked emails, and believed that they had, quote, complete control over her body and soul. Given all this, it should be no surprise that the founder of Scientology and disciple of Aleister Crowley, L. Ron Hubbard, based the foundations of Scientology on contacting such spiritual entities.
He used to conjure up these demons and thereby plug into them or have them plug into him, and a lot of his early writing was, which could be called spirit writing.
So, what the fuck is a demon? Perhaps Carl Sagan can explain.
Let's imagine that we are perfectly flat. I mean absolutely flat. We know, us flatlanders, about left-right, and we know about forward-back, but we have never heard of up-down. Let us imagine that into flatland, hovering above it, comes a strange three-dimensional creature which, oddly enough, looks like an apple. Hello, says the three-dimensional creature. How are you? I am a visitor from the third dimension. Well, the poor square looks around his closed house, sees no one there, and what's more, has witnessed a greeting coming from his insides, a voice from within.
In fact, there have been many well-documented cases of what can best be described as textbook demonic possession. While this is the stuff of fantasy for most of us, the Catholic Church takes it very seriously, and in some cases exorcisms were performed by a trained priest, even though the subject remains largely taboo. But what if the highest official in the Catholic faith was caught performing one? It seems that in the documented cases of exorcism, not all of the demonic spirits appear to be deceased humans. Instead, they seem to come from somewhere else, altogether, and most of the time with not very nice intentions. But those who have been spiritually initiated surely wouldn't worship at the altar of these entities if they weren't getting something in return. Perhaps a demonic possession could give you near superhuman powers, along with the stamina, charisma, and talent needed to become a modern-day idol.
Sasha is my alter ego. Kind of the first time I felt something else come into me, and you know, she can do things that I cannot do when I'm in rehearsal. I mean, I can try, but then it just doesn't happen. I guess I wouldn't be very entertaining on the stage, so Sasha comes out, and she's fearless.
However, an even more likely entertainer who receives interdimensional help would be Lady Gaga. Why? Maybe it's because she needs someone to watch over her at night to protect her from demons.
Gaga's been having a recurring nightmare about the devil. Now, Gaga explained the dream is about a phantom taking her into a room where there's a blonde girl with ropes tied to her limbs, pulling her apart. How creepy is that? Well, we certainly hope it's getting better.
The dream was so terrifying, I thought somehow a devil force was trying to take hold of me, a darkness. I guess I see devil and darkness as the same thing.
Nicki Minaj, too, has an unwelcome visitor by the name of Roman.
Roman is a crazy boy who lives in me, and he says the things that I don't want to say. I think he was born out of rage. He was conceived in rage.
It must be nice to have like an ignorant loudmouth who you can just sort of blame every...
He wants to be blamed. I don't want to blame him. I ask him to leave, but he can't. He's here for a reason. People have brought him out. People conjured him up. Now he won't leave.